Whatever stage you're at with your trading, it's important to stop and gain perspective before planning your next move. Take a break from the charts and join in the discussion with our hosts, Jason Graystone and Akil Stokes, as they share insights, opinions and expertise on all things trading. Grab a coffee, pull up a chair and join the Trader Coffee Break.
Well, how are you all doing? I hope you're doing well. Back for another week, another rant. I'm Jason Graystone.
I'm Akil Stokes. We made it. We made it again.
Done it again. We're back again. And no technology issues again. That's like a record for us. 2 consecutive weeks. So
don't mention that, man. As soon as you say that, the whole thing blows up in our face. The jinx, the curse. But
so far so good. So far so
yes,
good.
there we go.
All right. So if you're new to this channel, thank you. Hopefully you'll enjoy this little discussion. Really what we do is we just talk about things that no one else talks about when it comes to trading, or at least that I see people talk about. And it's the topics that you really just wish someone would talk about so you could like sense check, get something off your chest. And for that reason, I think this is a great channel. Like I love these discussions myself. And this week, what was the actual conversation that sparked this topic? Because if you're watching this, you can see the title is trading even worth it? And I think this is a question that a lot of us ask ourselves at one point or another in the journey. So Akil, what was the message?
Yeah, it was a question we were having on the platform with one of our tier 1 members. And, you know, I'll read the quote for you right now. This is from the second part of the question, but it was, I'm not sure I can fully articulate it yet, but it's about trying to compare a set of strategies. We're having a whole discussion on like back testing and digging into the numbers and profitability and risk and drawdown, stuff like that. And he was trying to basically compare, basically asking, is there some type of formula? Is there some type of, I guess, checklist or predetermined number that tells me that trading this strategy is worth it? And we've seen this in many cases where it comes to like, hey, is my strategy profitable enough? And it's always a difficult one to answer because that's going to be different per person. But this person was trying to discover, saying, hey, like, how do I know if my trading strategy or strategies with what I'm testing is worth my time versus, let's just say, investing in the S&P and investing little to no time in doing that and making a return that way? And I thought it was a cool question because, you know, you know, obviously we always talk about, we want to make sure our strategy is profitable. But for anyone that has ever heard us speak, you know, there's also the thing where is it profitable enough? Because I'll tell you what, if I have a strategy that makes 1% return on investment a year, it's technically profitable. Is it worth my time trading it? Not at all. So that is something you need to consider as a trader is it worth it? Is there a formula that we can plug and play to see if it's worth it? Or is it more of a kind of a person by person basis? And I'd be curious to see what you think about that, Jason.
It's such an important question to ask because, and it all pushes everything back to, do you enjoy trading? You know, is it something that you really enjoy? Because ultimately that's what's going to give you the answer to, is it worth it, right? Because as you just mentioned, you could get 1% on your money trading. Great, right? You could get 5% on your money trading. And at some point, there's going to be a threshold, like a tipping point where the work involved in learning to trade isn't worth that return. Okay. Now, I had an example recently with my wife. My wife doesn't need to work. She hasn't needed to work. And I always say that with every loss of dependency comes a new dependency, and we seek what we perceive not to have. And we, you know, and after being so many years as fulfilling herself by looking after the family and their house. She now wants to go and find a job. She wants to actually go and look for a job. And again, I tell people all the time, like, don't have this fantasy of never having to want to work, because when you don't work, then you'll want some meaning and your fulfillment, right? So she's looking for a job, and she goes for this job, and they start, putting her in the role, and all at the beginning, she's like very excited about it because she just thinks she's going to go out and get a job and all this kind of stuff. She starts the job, and you can see she's like getting a bit pissed off. It's like, it's not what, like, my time is worth more than this, right? And that particular job, she felt, I'm worth more than this. And because it's intangible, you don't really, not enough people write down or are really clear about what their time is worth and what they are worth. And because of that, you have this fantasy about going into something, and after a while, you'll either become a bit resentful because you feel like you're worth a little bit more, or you'll love it and you'll think, yeah, this is exactly where I fit. This is my, this is what I want to do. So when in trading, it's exactly the same. It's like there will be a point where you either realize that this is too much hard work for such a return. I could actually take this money and put it into something else that I would enjoy a bit more and get a better return, or even not as good a return, but I don't care because there's a trade-off with my happiness. Or you love trading and you're on this never-ending quest to kind of refine those returns, but you don't really care because you're just on the journey. And when you're in that bucket, you're going to have, you're much more suited to pursuing trading. So really it just comes down to, what is the return worth based on how much effort and sacrifice you have to put in to get that return. It's like if you had a fruit machine, and for every fruit machine, like, let's just say that you put in, $1 and got out, well, what would be the amount that you would like to get out of that fruit machine to visit a casino and put $1 in it every day? That's kind of that's what we're dealing with. It's like, what do you feel comfortable getting as a return to fulfill your needs or to satisfy your goal of doing it in the first place? Very difficult to explain, but that's kind of the best way that I see it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I always told people, because I was someone that fell in love with the game really, really early. I think I actually fell in love with the game of investing and trading before I even thought it was something that I can make money from. I started investing simply because I graduated college. I had no job or anything like that, and I had a whole bunch of money saved up because I've worked from a very young age, and I don't really spend money on anything. And my dad was like, hey, get some exposure to the financial markets. Start with buying a stock and then investing it. That was kind of my next level of investing, and I started doing that. And in that process, you start researching it, and I really enjoyed the game. And in doing it and meeting the right people, that was the first time I realized, like, wait a minute, I can actually do this for a living if I get good enough. So, for me, when I first started, I got out of investing and into active trading, and I was really bad for a very long time, but I was still super excited to wake up every morning and be bad. And I always tell myself, you either love it or you're a complete idiot to wake up every day, lose money, come back the next day and do it again. Like, one of the two. It's still up for discussion which is which. But the love of the game, because of the love of the game, I never thought about the money as the primary reason. Obviously, you're in something, you want to make money. As I got better, I aspired to make it a full-time deal. But for me, it didn't matter what my return on investment was. It was the game of, can I figure this out? Ooh, like, I made something was better than nothing. And then it was, okay, how can if I made 1% my first year, like, okay, how can I make 2% next year? How can I make 3%? And it was just slowly increasing increasing that. So I never thought about it. And again, this is because the passion came before the profit for me. I never thought about having a set like protocol where it's like, I need to make this much or I'm going to quit. And that's because trading was the primary objective, not necessarily, making money. It wasn't, I didn't get into trading to make a certain amount of money. So I didn't have like, hey, I got to beat the S&P or I got to produce this much. It was more so, hey, I just want to be good at this game, and wherever it takes me, it takes me. And it's funny, just like we speak about process over outcome. Within that process, you become better and you become good, and then you start increasing that return on investment. But with that being said, everyone's not like that, right? Some people are in. I started young. I was in a situation where I had nothing better to do, so I had this freedom to kind of play around and mess around. I had no family, nothing to worry about. There's no downside aside from me losing money. But other people are in different situations where they're thinking about retirement, or they're thinking about, maybe quitting or reducing the hours at their job, and they have this certain protocol or this certain level that they need to meet. And I do think it is a conversation that is worth having, because if you're going to produce the same thing in the market with, let's say you're a day trader and you're investing 3 hours of active trading time in the market, and you're only producing the same amount you would produce by just throwing a bunch of money in the S&P every month, you could do a lot more with that time and get the same result. So how much do you value that time? How much do you value what you're doing? Yes. The one thing I would add is this, and I said this to our trader, Jason. I think people don't understand the growth that goes into trading, right? We always say, funny, you in the accountability session the other day, one of our traders was asking about, should I back test like 8 things at once? And you're like, I know what Akil's going to say, right? Start with one thing. Yeah. Start with one thing. Get good with that one thing, and then expand from there, like any business. Just don't start don't pull a Quiznos. If you guys know the story of Quiznos, where very good chain fast food restaurant, and then they went out of business because they grew at an exponential. They grew too quick. They went from like 1 store to like 20,000 stores in like a month, and blew themselves up. Yeah. But it's important to think about it like this. When you do your initial back testing on maybe you're doing one strategy, one pair, you're going to have a certain return. And it's very easy for that return to be small and be like, hey, that's less than this. But you also need to think bigger picture. Like, what are you doing with this business? What are you doing with your trading? Do you always plan on trading one strategy on one pair? Do you plan on trading one strategy and expanding to 10 pairs? Do you plan on trading one pair but expanding to 10 strategies? Are you using a money management, the money management spreadsheet we have, where you're continually growing and upping your account size? You're growing your account. Are you compounding your money? Like, what is the big picture? Because it's very easy to look at year one results and be like, nah, right, they suck. But 5 years from now, which is typically where we see that J curve kind of, right? 5 years from now, like, you could be massively outproducing the alternative. But if you never thought that far in advance, you're kind of handicapping yourself. So it's think about not necessarily where you are right now, but your bigger plan of where you want to be 5-10 years from now. And those are the numbers that you should try to consider comparing.
Yeah, you make a great point. And I think the trader actually said something along the lines of like, put it in the S&P 500, invest in a stock or whatever, right? And the thing is, you could take $100 today and invest that into a business that could do 6 figures in a year. That's just the world we live in today. Like, you can literally go and do that. You could buy some software or a platform for $100, and in the first month, because of the technology you've got available to you and the audience you've got, you could generate 6 figures in 12 months by spending $100 on a business. There's going to be work involved in creating that business, but the question is, for 1,000% return, is it worth me putting that effort in to get 1,000% return? And will I enjoy doing it, right? With trading, the thing with trading is it is a little bit unknown. As Akil said, it's like on the first year might not be very encouraging, but going forward, You might do 20%, you might do 50%, but you might not. And that also is something that plays on traders' minds, which is why it's so important to just enjoy it. If you enjoy it, you're not really thinking about, oh, will I get where I want to go? And it's like it's a question that no one can answer, because this question, is it worth it, is basically the same as how much is good to start trading with. That is a question I get every day. How much do I need to start trading? And here's the answer. It's based on your goal. What do you want to do? Is it just, are you basing enough just based on a better return than putting it in a savings account? Are you basing it on partially replacing your income? If so, by how much? Are you basing it on completely replacing your income? If so, how much? Are you basing it on this dream lifestyle you want that costs more than you can afford right now? And if so, how much is that lifestyle? And all of these things are basically going to answer that question, how much you need to start trading, right? So you made a really good point there. A great way to approach it that's going to kind of get your feet wet a little bit and not, you can make a decision whether it's worth it or not quite quickly, is to do a test of a strategy. One, see what that is, and then say, well, that took me this long. It took me this much time. I was away from my family for 20 hours or 100 hours. And then you could say, well, if I do this test across 10 pairs and this market and maybe another strategy, maybe I want to do another 200 hours, right? Will that be worth it? And then you'll probably have a good idea whether or not you really want to do it or not. But here's my gut feel. If you really want to trade, you won't even ask yourself that question. You won't be asking yourself that question in the first place. So if you are asking, because it's a legitimate question. If I'm investing my money, I weigh up, well, is it worth what I have to do to get that return? I do that every time I place an investment. And if I go into trading, it's like, do I want to develop this? Do I want to learn this new skill to generate a bit more money? Great. Trading isn't like that for me personally. For me, it was at first. And then when I got into it, it was like, I've just got to nail this thing. And I'm on this never ending journey of trying to get better and better at it. But if you are still, after testing your first pair, asking yourself, is it worth it? It's probably not. It probably isn't. That's my most honest answer to you. Yeah, that's really all I've got to say on that.
No, that's good. And it's a perfect follow-up off of last week's episode too, where the commonality of like, enjoy it. Don't underestimate this is our life. Like, we should want to enjoy our life. That is the ultimate goal. I know it sounds weird, especially coming from us, where it's like, oh no, you need to make money and make all this. And trust me when I say, if you guys knew, like, both of us, we weren't born with a silver spoon. We're not coming from money. But in your journey, you learn that in your journey through the process of like working extremely hard, sometimes working too hard, sacrificing the wrong things, making mistakes, you start to kind of see what is truly important. And yes, it's easier to say that at different points of your life. If you're dead broke, you got to get to that first threshold point where it's like you're not running away from your landlord each month because they're going to evict you, and you're not hopping in dumpsters to steal meals. So yes, there's a threshold, but once you hit that threshold, you start realizing what's important, what brings you joy, and what really makes you happy. And those are the things that you want to do. And honestly, everything else becomes secondary. Where everything else becomes secondary. I was talking to a parent at my soccer game yesterday. They scheduled a vacation for their kid, and then their teacher's like, oh, he's gonna miss school, or the soccer coach is like, oh, he's gonna miss his tournament. He's like, I don't care. Like, I want to give him the experience of going to Mexico because this is a cool thing for our family. That's what we value. It sucks that you got to sacrifice some things, but like, to us, this is worth it. We are going to enjoy this moment. It's like, that's what it's about. So, you can have all things, but don't forget to enjoy it, guys. Especially in trading's a tough, rough journey. But remember why you're doing it. You should have some type of love for it, or it should create some type of enjoyment in your life. And money is good too. You want to make money, don't get me wrong. But it should be secondary as far as the motivation. I really like you said, mastering the game, because that's the carrot. We'll never reach it, but it keeps us going. It keeps us going.
Awesome. Look, great conversation. Really, really important topics. And this is what it's like every week. So if you've enjoyed this, let us know what topic or what you've got going on in your head. These are the kind of, it's like a, you know,
therapy session. Sit on the couch, put your feet up, and
it's like a throw and response type thing. You just give us your problems, we'll just put you on the couch.
But like you said earlier, Jason, like it's cool because like you really don't hear this stuff anywhere else.
No.
And it's because it's not always sexy. It doesn't sell. It doesn't make splashy headlines. But like, if you've ever, and the veteran traders that listen to this, like if they're always nodding their heads where it's like, man, like this is the stuff I wish I heard on my journey instead of just like secret flashy strategy. Like this is stuff that you learn in the trenches. And like, as a newer trader, if you can learn or at least be aware of this stuff, just put a little inception bug in your head at the beginning, it's going to make your journey so much easier, because we're literally checking all the boxes that you need to, you know, become a consistently profitable trader. And even if you don't use this information now, there will be a time where it comes up and you're like, I remember hearing about that. Sudden you go back and you listen to the episode and it's like, it's just helpful. So I love these conversations. It's different. We're not afraid to be different if you know us.
I get that people don't know what they don't know. And it's a bit like if you bring a child up and you don't let them try and walk, you just like hold them up all the time, they're not going to be able to learn to walk. But if you just let them get on with it, they're probably going to hurt themselves. And it's like, what do? Well, you have to actually let them hurt themselves. Otherwise they won't understand why you were holding them up in the first place. So I get that there's going to be people listening to this just going, yeah, whatever, you know, it's a good podcast, cool story. And then maybe a year or 2 years down the line, you'll come back and think, right, that's what they were talking about.
That's how it always goes. Yeah. Like, I get it now. You fit me.
Unfortunately, that's just what humans are like. We can't actually give you advice that you can't resonate with because you haven't experienced it. That's just the way it is. But hopefully you've enjoyed it either way. We do have an announcement on Friday, not tomorrow, but the next day at the time of this live. If you've enjoyed this whole show, every episode is being launched as an official podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the podcasts, Libsyn, Podbean, everything, you name it, right? And what we would really, really, really love you guys to do is, as soon as it comes out on Apple Podcasts, go and give it a little rating, subscribe to it, leave us a little review because you've been listening to us this long, and we're going to try and get that thing to #1. We're also going to be picking a winner at random to win a 3-month membership inside Tier 1 Trading for free. So if you are someone or know someone that would love that, make sure you share it with them as well, and just help us get this to #1. It would be amazing. Comes out Friday, and we love this probably more than you guys, but it's great. So that's it for another week. Join us next week for some more rants and raves, and until then, take care, have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you then.
Thanks for joining us for the Trader Coffee Break. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to never miss a live discussion. Follow our hosts on social media, and remember, do nothing to gain perspective on everything. See you next week.